Good evening, welcome. My name is Michael Mason from Plus My Reach. We're here this evening to talk about monetizing Hangouts, specifically contracts. Anybody that's looking at the event page will know that we've done a few other shows before this. This is the fourth in the series of 6. And we're joined this evening by Laurie Lazur and Irene Williams. And I'm going to hand over to the girls and sit back and run the technical. Over to you, Laurie.
All right. Well, we're really excited to be here to talk about contracts and proposals and let you know a little bit about the process when you have gotten the interest of one of your sponsors. So we've already done Hangouts that include, what you need in a logo and branding, and what you need for your media kit, and how you should make that first attempt to reach out to a brand or sponsor, and through a pitch letter or a pitch email, really. And now we're talking about the brand is interested, they're intrigued, they want you to build a proposal that will later become your contract. So it's a guideline of what you're going to be offering and what you plan on putting in there will cover your butt, really, because that's the whole point of it. Because you can make some mistakes in that contract, and it can be costly. I mean, you can have to refund your sponsorship money. They could sue you. There's a legal contract in that you will provide something and they're paying for it. And I can tell you, when you do take sponsorship, that it's money changing hands, and it's all friendly, but it does change things. It does, and I've already said in the series, you don't want to necessarily change your content so it is catered around the sponsor, because then you lose your audience finds that that's ingenuine, and I do think so too. So you don't want to necessarily do that, but you definitely want to make sure that that you have an agreement that both parties can uphold, and they're going to walk away super happy and want to become a sponsor even more. So Irene, first I wanted to ask, when you're doing a proposal, you're great, you're a copywriter, so you get it, that part of that proposal has to be a pitch still, even though you've already gotten their interest. What are some of the things you can see happening? You've worked with bloggers, you've worked with Twitter chats, that might upset a brand.
I think one thing, and it's really true for proposals in general, is to get so uber specific that you bind yourself in, because social is very fluid. So as you create a proposal, I would build in language that accommodates that results may vary, things may change, that kind of thing. Because, again, being my own business and writing a lot of proposals and doing a lot of social media for clients, I can have a baseline of what's very reasonable to expect in terms of results for a live event such as a Hangout or a Twitter chat, but there are variables that you just can't predict. So that, I just felt very led to say that right up front, that as you create, and you're still pitching, so you want to build in things that sound fabulous and that are legitimately fabulous. You're not falsifying the potential, but I would definitely remember that this is becoming binding language that you're presenting to a client, and that there should be footnotes or caveats built in that make it clear to everyone involved that there will just be factors you can't predict along the way. So that's one very important thing I felt led to share.
Yeah, that's so huge, and I can tell everyone a story that happened with me, and it's actually a sponsor I love, and they are still a sponsor of Interior Design Community, and I'm really happy that they are. But they, initially I promised too much. I said, we would edit the videos, right? Well, 10, 20, 30 edits later, and you're going back and forth with the PR person, and then you're going back and forth with the host, and you're going back and forth eventually with the brand itself. There can be 20 edits. So if you said, I will do one edit, so make sure you give me all your notes about what you want changed, that's a different language than editing is included. It's things like that that can cause problems. But you don't want to draw attention to the problems either. Like, you don't want to say, I can't control what people say on live television, and I can't control what they say in the audience, which is true, right? You can't control that your brand could be, you know, Coca-Cola, and someone says, I hate Coca-Cola in the audience or live on television while they're sponsoring your brand. You really ultimately don't have control over what people say. But the brand does know that, believe it or not. They actually do understand that you don't have control over it, but you don't want to promise things. So you want to but you also don't want to draw attention to the things you don't control. So there's leaving some things left unsaid, but when you are saying something, being really, really specific about that. And I think Irene was saying that you have to be really specific about what you're asking because...
Yeah, you come to your proposal with intelligence about what you're offering, and obviously the whole plus my reach component of this chat that we're having now comes into play in that you need to know your baseline. You need to know what kind of reach your Hangout is getting. Those are factual, and you could support that. But in terms of what might happen for a specific event on behalf of a sponsor, you know, you can't predict the future. And it's kind of like I come from a traditional public relations background. And so in other words, throughout my career, I've been charged with getting my clients editorial coverage, things that are not paid for, you know, and the line between social media and public relations blurs, I think in a good way. I really like how it all converges. But ultimately, it is out of my control at some point when it's an editorial message, and that's what happens in a Hangout. So again, to include language in your proposal that just acknowledges that, captures it in a way that everybody's going to sign off on. It is, did I get enough signatures to cover my rump?
Yeah.
You know?
That's right. That's right. And they want to be happy with you. I mean, they're going to be happy with you at the end of the day. They're going to want to come back and be a sponsor again. So you want that relationship where, you know, where they aren't let down. So it's not over-promising, but it's also being specific. I can walk you through some processes that I use, and I have a proposal. So first, like I said, we do their pitch email. And then, of course, they come back and they love the idea. Sounds great. Tell me, you know, give me a proposal. Tell me how much. Basically, that means tell me how much it's going to cost. So, in that, I don't want to just say, here's my price. See ya. You know, I want to go over what I can give them. So it's like a very edited down version of your media kit. So now you've proposed an idea, or you have talked to them about your Hangout, and had a conversation with them, and you know generally what they're trying to do. They're right now releasing a product, or they're going to a trade show, or they're doing something that they're trying to promote. And you have a great idea how that would work on your Hangout, and how you would use them as a sponsor, give them a shout out, and you really like the brand. So you've got all those things going for you. Now you have to say, these are the things I'm going to do for you. And you know, sometimes you get to that proposal process and they say that's just too much money, and then you go back and forth and you change that proposal enough times until it becomes the contract, because now everybody agrees on it. This is what's going to happen, and they schedule it, and you're good to go. You've been monetized. So in that, I will cover you know, how many, you know, what my process is. So before the Hangout, I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to have your logo is going to go on my and it's different every time. You should know that too. There's no standard canned way that you work with a sponsor, but sometimes it includes putting their logo on your materials, like your header, putting a picture that they want in the stream, sending it out to your social media networks on GooglePlus and Pinterest and Twitter and Facebook several times. Sometimes you want to have that in the contract. I will do it 6 times before the Hangout. I will, while I'm live, I'll do an intro, outro, little 10-second commercial about that you are the sponsor of my show today, and a shout out to you. And at the end, I'll remind people, sometimes that can come with a call to action. You know that they really want to push, you know, what is, I know that Michael always says Google binders or something. You know they want to push that. You can say, you know, everyone go over and check out their new Flugal binder, or make sure you go on over to their website and give them a like on Facebook. Whatever it is that they're trying to have a call to action to have happen, you can absolutely do that. But it's definitely this process where your pitch, it's a bigger pitch, basically. It's a really detailed pitch. This is what's going to happen. You walk them through that whole process before, during, and after a Hangout. You're going to write a blog piece after. You're going to send it out to social media networks another 6 times. You're going to send it out to your email list. You're going to thank every guest that came. All of those pieces that you do normally, I assume you do normally as a Hangout host, should be in there, because that's part of the purchase price too. So they understand that you're not just going to come on to this Hangout with no preparation, throw up their, talk about their logo, throw it out there at the end of it, and then they're done. To me, that's not what they're buying. They're buying this partnership with you, and that you're going to really be, holding their brand up and giving them what they need. So I know you and I have talked about this quite a few times. We've hosted live events. We hosted a live event at a trade show, so it was something that was produced, and it was live, and it was fantastic. There's a lot that goes into that, and I think that it's a dance, really. But you want to make sure both are happy, and at the end of the day, the client walks away happy, you walk away with more business later on, because they're going to keep coming back.
I think a really good point that you made in context is that there isn't this beautifully packaged applies to everyone proposal.
No.
In my world, this goes beyond just the idea of Hangouts. I do proposals all the time, and I'll open an existing proposal and think, oh, I'm just going to be able to change out the name. No, it never works like that. Every proposal is unique. There may be certain elements that translate beyond each one, but for the most part, you have to think anew about whoever's brand or business you're about to hopefully engage with, and so defining how many times you're willing to mention something, or to change on your nameplate, or whatever. Some of those things, go ahead and define them, but I'm just here to tell you it's always going to be a unique endeavor, because everybody wants something a little unique and different. So they can be exhausting, frankly. That's why the payoff has to be great.
I agree. We have a question. Can you put that up on screen, Michael? Because I can't see it down there.
Yeah, it's a question from Lee Rickler. He said, I would recommend spending a few quid on getting a lawyer, solicitor to provide a contract if it's your business and there's money involved.
I don't think it's a bad idea for the initial proposal, but like Irene said, every single proposal is different. And as long as you can be loose in the language, I don't really think a proposal needs an attorney, because really there are several stages. It's a formalized pitch. So after you've pitched them the idea in the email, you've gotten their attention. Now you actually formalize it and say, these are the details of that pitch. This is what is really going to happen. And then you put your pricing, which I probably haven't said this before yet, but we actually have an HOA that we do for the interior design community, and I charge $1,000 per show to be a sponsor of the show, and that includes a lot of stuff. I mean, there's a laundry list of items that I will do before the show, during the show, and after the show for that sponsor. I've worked with multiple sponsors at the same time. I've also done giveaways. I've also done blog ads. I've done a few different monetization process with multiple different sponsors on different platforms. But everybody's going to charge differently. It depends on obviously your network and who you have in your network, and how big your audience is, and what else you're willing to do for it. Because there's your audience here on GooglePlus, and how targeted are they for that product, and does that brand really want to reach that audience? Because that's, at the end of the day, that's what they want, is that, are you the right fit for them? And they have sometimes huge budgets with multiple marketing efforts that they do across all sorts of different platforms, from print to television to blogs to Twitter chats to ads to everything. But there is only so much money at the end of the day, you know, and so they want to make sure, a PR agency, if they want to keep their client happy, they want to make sure those decisions are the right decisions, that they are making good fits for their brands, because if they make enough bad hits for their brands, that brand's going to shop for a different PR agency. So
and I will say, in answer to the comment we received there, if you're not comfortable creating proposals and this is something completely new to you, I would say the investment with legal advisement would be to get base language that is kind of that cover your rump approach, and then be able to fill in the blanks over that, because it would be very cost prohibitive, I would presume, to retain an attorney every time you had to create a new proposal. But if you are feeling very unsure and would like the peace of mind that your language does what it needs to in your proposals, that might be my first approach. Again, I've just grown up in this industry where proposals are so second nature to what I do. And trust me, I've had moments where I did, as Lori, said, she's done some of that promising and then, oh, drat, shoot yourself in the foot kind of thing. I've had my moments where I've learned and I've gotten savvier about how to create proposals, and you learn through experience. But again, to validate that point, I mean, if I felt completely a newbie and very unsure of how I was going to be able to approach that, I wouldn't hesitate, if you're building your business in this regard.
Yeah,
So.
I wouldn't either. I mean, I think it's definitely could be a very good investment for that basic knowledge, but that basic language. But I think that once you get into the proposal writing process with many different brands, many different sponsors, many different scenarios, they're so different. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes they could want you on site to do to do a hangout, and that you'd need, you want to say what that will cost you, what that price will be, because you have travel expenses, you have time expenses. So there's definitely, you have to think of that picture and what time you're giving and what value you're associating for that time.
Right.
And it's really a smart idea to start, before you even do a proposal, write down what your process is. What is your process for having a hangout? Do you tweet it out before your hangout? Do you put it on Facebook and you have 5,000 friends there? Every piece that you do, you should write that down, so generally, if I were going to do a hangout tomorrow, this is what it would look like before, during, and after my hangout. This is what my step-by-step process. And assign, how many people would see those actions. So if your social network is 50 people, you can say, well, I'm going to tweet it out 5 times, 50 people see it each time, or that kind of thing. That's something that you might want to include in there too. It's all about what your process is right now and how you. My process might be different than yours. So, and then it also matters what that proposal would want, what they would want. Maybe they don't want to be mentioned in the hangout per se. Maybe they just want to know who is on your hangouts. Maybe they want to form a relationship with some of the people that are on there. So they want you to really do just a product evaluation. So there's lots of different ways that you can work with sponsors, and there's lots of different ways you can have those brand relationships. And as long as you understand that even if you go to an attorney, you can't every time. And even of one proposal, there might be 10 edits, 20 edits before it gets to a point where everyone says, yes, okay, this is good. I like the price. I like what you're going to offer for it. We're happy. We signed off on it. So it really does take a back and forth thing, because no one immediately sees the proposal and goes, yes. Well, some people do, but it's rare.
I think what you're saying draws out an interesting point in the process, because obviously you do your media kit, you pitch, you garner attention, and then you want to capture that opportunity, and there's this conversation that happens between capture attention and land the sponsorship, where you need to bring business intelligence into the conversation, what to ask your potential sponsor to draw out what they expect and what they need. Hopefully they would be pretty smart and savvy about that on their end too. Surprisingly, every now and then, maybe not. But but hopefully, you have a meaningful conversation in which you take all those helpful nuggets and place them into the proposal. I mean, honestly, that's why I find proposals, I'm not complaining. I like to do proposals because it means opportunity, but they're mentally taxing because I want to be thorough in thinking about what I'm going to put in there because it leads to something that is a binding contract. I want to bring real smarts to what I'm doing on behalf of whoever my client is and whatever opportunity. So yeah, and then it's also not just to make sure you're pleasing your sponsor, it's also to make sure that you're not burdening yourself with unreasonable expectations on your end, kind of what Lori's already touched on with the editing. I learned when I focus on copywriting back in, I do that less and less today because I'm busier with other things, but every proposal would say 2 rounds of reasonable edits, and it was my determination what counted as reasonable, because you learn really fast, oh my gosh, you can't come back to me 50 times with unreasonable edits. But, so in other words, certain things that would be a burden to you professionally, so say 1 round of edits on your video, and then we need to look at additional pricing beyond should you require more modifications, that kind of thing.
Right. And I can say that once you have established that there's that line in the sand, there's that, it's 1 and done, or it's 2 edits, whatever you feel comfortable with, then the brand has to get a lot more clear about what they want too. So it's not necessarily a bad thing for them either, because then they have to really, think about what they want. Instead of saying, you know what, I watched it this one time, and I think it's normal. You watch it one time, oh, I didn't like that you said they said that. Can you cut that out? Yeah, sure. Then the next person watches it. Well, I didn't like this. Can you cut that out? And it can quickly add up. And if you said 1 edit or 2 edits, then they actually will go through and mark, okay, I don't like this, I don't like that. They give it to you all at once because they know exactly what they want because you said once, and then money will change hands. So that's
often I go ahead and state in a lot of scenarios, if there's a collection of humans that will be making decisions about editing or revisions or whatever, that one person be the funnel for that, because if everybody is direct, so I build things like that into my proposal. Like, I only want to hear from one of you. If you have any specific requests, I need you to collect that on your end, because that's too much of my time to shuffle through everybody's comments. Just things like that.
Sometimes you don't want to do any, and you can say that too, and that's perfectly okay. It's whatever you're comfortable with doing, and or you're building this in as an expense above what you actually do. Maybe you're outsourcing it. In my case, I was outsourcing the edits, so I was back and forth with this person 20, 30 times. They would tell me, I'd have to tell him. It was back and forth, and that in itself was taking me a tremendous amount of time. So it's definitely these little things that can make sure that the agreement is a happy agreement. And then I want to touch on what you said, because it's so important that little piece of conversation happens where the brand is interested in you. So you've sent out your proposal, and it's kind of before you do. I mean, you sent out your pitch email, and now they're interested. In that conversation before you do your proposal, find out their goals. Do a little bit of research too, so that you're igniting the conversation too. So, if you see, I can say, for instance, that I did do some research about the company Logitech when I was trying to pitch them, and I'm still in the process of trying to pitch them, but I looked at all of the things they were posting on Twitter, all of the things they were posting on GooglePlus, all of the things they were posting lately on Facebook, before I make a pitch that says, I love this product, I want to work with you, you should work with me, I might say to them, I noticed that you're doing a lot of promotion about your live streaming television product, or I know you're doing a lot of, a lot of promotion right now about your new remote control. This is how I see it would tie into my product, what I'm doing, and I think that we could work together. Or that's if you're blind and you can't have that conversation, or say, I'm so glad you liked my pitch, my email, to you. What are some of your goals? Ask them questions about what their goals are right now. Why did they like it? Because that will help you in your proposal to put language in there that lets them know that their bases will be covered. What their goals out of this will be covered first and foremost before you even talk about what your limitations are going to be. It should be in there too, but you want to make sure that when they read it, it's just a slam dunk. Of course, this fits everything that they wanted it to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then really it becomes, I find, typically in my world, it just happens to work out because we've done the pitch and the warm fuzzy get to know each other, they're interested, and then we have that great conversation where we find out all this good stuff and it's put into a proposal, and then they're going to flip to the punchline, what it's going to cost. Hopefully we're at that point where that's really what they're needing to get out of the proposal.
Yeah. So. And I do include that right into my proposal, so I'll say these are all the things that are going to happen. So I'll talk about the project itself, like what the project is. I'll talk about what will be included in that project. I will talk about the process of before, during, and after a Hangout and where those pieces will fit. And then the next page is pricing. So I say this is what it's going to cost. And sometimes there's a back and forth. Well, I didn't really know that it was going to cost that much. And then you can trim some things. Okay, well then, how about if I don't do the email? Because all of this stuff takes time. I mean, when it boils right down to it, you don't want to undersell yourself either, because you're sending out across platform tweets and messages. You're writing a blog post. You're doing a video. You're researching guests. You're getting people here. You have questions you want to ask them. You're doing your research for them. That is huge. That's a big project. In ours, we also do an email out. We do a blog piece. We do sometimes we pull the audio and make a podcast. So those are things that take time. I mean, they're not. It's not like it just happens without us actually spending the time to do that. And so it is worth the price. So you have, when you build that in and you have this price, you can justify it, because that's part of it, right? I mean, you have to know that it's a value.
Yeah, and another thing I just thought of that I think bears stating out loud is, if you're trading emails with folks in this process, what's said in emails between the two parties can potentially be binding. So if you look at this as you're building a contractual relationship, and I say that just because my first year being an independent business person, I had to take somebody to small claims court, and it was our email threads that were as I told the judge, I have the truth, because the email chain. So every communication that is, traceable, just be very aware, that, hopefully, for goodness sakes, you would never get to that point, and that can be very tangly. I think it's actually very rare that I ended up in that situation, but I just throw that out for everyone's awareness.
Yeah. That's a really, really great point, because not every brand is huge, and whether or not you do it and then they pay you, because our process works that they pay us after that we do the Hangouts. So if there's not like an upfront fee, I'm assuming that there could be brands out there who you do all this work and then they don't pay you, and that would be bad. So make sure you understand that too.
I'm wired. It's just my nature. I like to invoice after a project is done, and then everybody's happy. There's the value of what was delivered, and but it was through my very first year and having that incident where if I am very unfamiliar with somebody that I potentially am going to work with, I sometimes, it's not often, but I will ask for a portion of payment up front, because there's a lot of work that goes up front. So again, blessedly, I usually end up in work situations where I have a comfort level. And I will say, the person that I did have to take to small claims court, radar went off inside me from moment one. I should have run the other direction, and live and learn.
Yeah, so, you live and learn.
If you feel like it's not going to be a good working relationship, maybe don't deny that reality and find the next one. Yes.
Exactly. It's not the end of the world if one sponsor turns you down and then another one, or one is giving you the creeps a little bit and you decide this isn't the right fit. Don't get in. I wouldn't say get into any of this monetization in a way that you were like, I need to earn money right now, because number one, Hangouts are new. Like, brands are unfamiliar. There's an education process. I mean, as Irene stated in an earlier Hangout, their budgets in some cases have already been set for the year, so they can't. I mean, sometimes the Hangout price, they can do it, but yeah, it's definitely something where you're not expecting, like, I'm gonna get a sponsor tomorrow. It takes some time, and then you build it up with the show, and you build up more and more brands that want to work with you, and it does work kind of like an avalanche, where you have one, and then it could even be within the same PR agency that they represent another company that you would work for you or whatever. So they'll start to work with you on other projects, and you might have many different sponsors within the same PR agency, really, if you could. So it's about being able to present yourself professionally, really. I mean, you have to understand that if you're new to trying to monetize your Hangout, that brands are not new to working in sponsored relationships with blogs or with Twitter chats or with Pinterest stars or Instagram stars. So, that's really where we're coming into competition, sort of. I mean, sometimes we work with people who do that too, but they're not really unfamiliar with the process. So if they have, like, brand, this blog that's really great, and this Instagram account that's really great, and this Hangout, and they're all pitching them, it becomes sometimes like, who can come across most professionally, right? And who is going to get my message across the best?
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think? I mean,
yeah, and who can substantiate what they're putting in their proposal, which comes back to the importance of knowing the stats on your Hangouts.
Yeah, and who they are too. Yeah, right. Who's my audience? Like, who are my audience? Are they mostly males over 40? Are they mostly? I mean, are you researching the people you see from Plus My Reach and getting to know who your audience is? Are there possibly even brands within your audience that would want to work with you? I mean, those are things too that you might want to look at in the analytics.
It comes down to a thread throughout all these Hangouts that we're doing related is just the fact that if you're exerting all this mental energy and effort for your Hangout, do approach it as a true business endeavor, so that all that has value in your life. I mean, because this is ultimately, it's just going to be a lot of time and a lot of your brain going towards this. So
that's something I noticed from day one. It's that there's so many fantastic HOAs out there, so many fantastic HOAs, and such great conversations. And I watch a lot of Hangouts. I mean, I listen to it like some people listen to podcasts all day, and so much great information coming out on not just necessarily the most popular Hangout. Sometimes it's a little-known Hangout that you don't know much about. I watched one or listened to one by Epicurious yesterday about coffee, and I don't even drink coffee, but it was interesting. My husband loves coffee, so it was really an interesting Hangout, and there's just a lot to this medium, I think, and there's a lot to the fact that we're like, Michael is in the Canary Islands, you're in Tennessee, I'm in New Hampshire, and we're able to just do this right now, and
so cool.
I know, it's so good. It's got the cool factor.
Sleep on my lap, like, while it's happening.
I know, it's so cool. It's definitely, and it's so real. That's the thing that I keep telling people. It's just, I always feel this energy when I leave a Hangout because it's so real. It's not this. I think people are so bored with watching commercials, you know, like pre-edited, perfect commercials about anything. It's these real moments that we're able to capture with a Hangout that, you know, are real opinions and real feelings, and you see the person's expression, and it's not an actor, it's a real person with a real idea.
I think it's a probably for a lot of folks who get into this, it's that fine balance of a great Hangout is probably going to happen from a true interest, a passion, and it's going to grow organically, but then there needs to be that thread of you that remembers as it grows and it starts to take more of your time and energy, how can you make it more meaningful in your life? And that's where that business intelligence comes in, and that dance of making sure that it stays pure and organic, but yet you get some cool sponsors too. So, which goes beyond talking about.
You gotta pay the bills at the end of the day. You know, we're all spending a tremendous amount of time with Hangouts, and I think the audience is there. I think the participation is there. I think there are creative, amazing hosts out there, and I think there are brands that actually want that. I think it's you're so right. It's just about maintaining that and understanding the process of monetization and what, you know. And it's the great thing about it is that Hangouts, you know, the way brands see us, it's no different than how to monetize your blog, how to monetize your Twitter chat, how to monetize your Instagram account, how to monetize Pinterest. So a lot of the process is the same, like having great graphics, having a media kit, understanding your numbers, knowing your audience, like all of this stuff is the same across platforms. And so I think a lot of the education is out there, not just what we're doing here, which is fantastic, but I think there's so much out there, so many great ideas beyond even what we're sharing that help you with this process and will get you going so that you can make this passionate, creative, wonderful thing that you're doing make money for you too. I think there's another question. Michael?
Yep, I'm just remembering to unmute myself. It's Ryan. He said, I started using the Shake app on Android, and web version's coming soon apparently. And he says it's been wonderful for making contracts on his phone. Which is really good.
Well, there you go.
I wasn't even aware you could make contracts on your phone.
I think that's great. I mean, anything that makes the process easier. I have a Mac, so I actually use Pages or something like that. It has a built-in proposal, and then I customized it for myself, and you know, I put my process in there. But I think the exercise of writing all of the steps you take before, during, and after a Hangout is part of how you figure out how to monetize it, because you will know how much time that takes you, and you'll know how much effort that takes you, and what that's worth.
Yeah. I recently started using Harvest to manage my my agency business, and you can do quotes and things from there. And I'm new to that. I'm using it mainly for invoicing and time management. As my staff has grown, I need to make sure I know where their time is being used. However, it does have that functionality of creating quotes. So it'll be really interesting to see, because I like to have that personal connection to what I'm presenting. And like I said, even though I come to every proposal with a basic framework, it all gets filled in very differently based on the potential client's needs. So, I mean, I love that there are apps, especially for people who are new to this, to jumpstart them. And in some instances, that could be very adequate, obviously.
Yeah. Well, thanks you so much for everyone for coming. And I hope you did learn a little bit today. And if you have any questions, you know, always reach out to us at Plus My Reach. We're always happy to help with anything that you can do. You know, we have your back. We have all of the data, and we're trying to give you as much information as we can to make sure that you're successful in monetizing your Hangouts and in just learning more about your Hangouts too, and becoming a better host and better at this great thing called Hangouts that we all love to do so much. So thank you, everyone. Have a great night. Bye.